The rope burned against her wrists as Emma Carson gasped for air, her boots dangling above the ground. The laughter of the bullies echoed in her ears, cruel and sharp, mixing with the rustling leaves of the giant oak tree. "Let's see what the farm girl's gonna do now," one of them shouted. They thought it was all a game, another way to humiliate her. But Emma knew this wasn't a game, it was a nightmare. She tried to scream, but her voice cracked as the world blurred around her. Then, just as her strength began to fade, a low, powerful sound broke the chaos, the thunder of a helicopter's rotors slicing through the air. Emma had always been tough, raised on the hard soil of Willow Creek. Her days started before sunrise, milking cows and feeding livestock. But toughness didn't stop the cruelty of small, town bullies who mocked her simple clothes, her farm boots, and her quiet nature. They called her names, threw stones at her barn, and laughed at the sight of her struggling to keep her farm alive. Still, she endured, because she had someone worth enduring for. Her husband, Daniel, a flight medic in the army who now flew medical helicopters for the state, was her anchor. Whenever he came home, his smile reminded her that she wasn't fighting alone. But Daniel wasn't there that day when the bullies cornered her. They had followed her into the woods after she left the supply store, taunting her for walking alone, sneering about how a farm girl widow, in waiting, didn't belong among them. She tried to ignore them, but their cruelty escalated fast. By the time she realized how far they were willing to go, she was already tied and lifted into the air like some cruel spectacle. Her heartbeat roared in her ears, and her thoughts raced. Is this how I go? Like this? Just then, the sound of salvation came. A rhythmic thump that shook the treetops. A helicopter swooped low over the horizon, its searchlight cutting through the forest shadows. Emma blinked through tears, hardly believing it. Of all moments, Daniel's medical helicopter was descending right into the clearing. The bullies froze, their laughter silenced, as the machine roared above them. The helicopter touched down with a rush of air that sent dust and leaves swirling in every direction. The side door swung open, and there he was. Daniel, leaping out in his medic uniform, eyes scanning the scene with a soldier's precision. "Emma!" he shouted, his voice fierce with fear and fury. Within seconds, he had a knife in hand, cutting the rope as Emma collapsed into his arms. The bullies stumbled backward, pale and speechless, realizing too late who they had tangled with. Daniel's glare was enough to send them scattering into the trees. Emma clung to him, trembling but alive, her face pressed against the chest she thought she might never see again. Daniel held her tighter, whispering, "I've got you. No one's ever going to hurt you like this again." For the first time that day, she felt safe. But as the adrenaline faded, the reality of what had just happened hit her. These weren't just childish pranks. This was cruelty that could have ended her life. In the days that followed, the town couldn't ignore what had happened. Word spread fast, and the sheriff brought the bullies' parents to account. But the real change didn't come from punishment. It came from Emma herself. Instead of hiding in shame or fear, she stood tall at the town meeting, her voice steady though her hands shook. She told them exactly what it felt like to be mocked, belittled, and nearly broken. She told them that strength wasn't just in fists or cruelty. It was in survival, in love, in refusing to be crushed by hate. Her words carried weight because they came from truth. People who once turned away in silence now offered support. Neighbors came to her farm with tools and hands to help rebuild what she had lost to both storms and cruelty. And slowly, the girl once mocked as just a farm girl became a symbol of resilience in Willow Creek. For Emma, the hardest part wasn't forgiving the bullies. It was forgiving herself for the nights she almost believed their words. But Daniel reminded her every day, "You're not just strong. You're unbreakable." He would often land his helicopter near the fields when his shift ended, just to wave from the cockpit and remind her that she was never alone again. One autumn evening, as the sunset painted the sky in gold and crimson, Emma sat with Daniel on the porch. The distant sound of his helicopter still echoed in her memory, the moment that had saved her life. She leaned into him and whispered, "I thought it was the end. But it was the beginning of something stronger." He kissed her forehead and said softly, "Exactly. You're still here, we're still here. And nothing is ever going to take that away." The story of the farm girl and the helicopter became more than gossip. It became a lesson. A reminder that even when cruelty tries to hang you from the highest tree, love, courage, and unexpected grace can pull you down to safety. Emma's life was no longer defined by what the bullies tried to do. It was defined by how she rose above it, stronger, braver, and more alive than ever. And so the answer to the unspoken question became clear. What's a farm girl gonna do when the world tries to break her? She's gonna fight, she's going to endure. And when hope descends from the sky, she's going to rise higher than the treetops.